everyone, this is Gina. Today I'm going to show you how to make this really cute little necklace. We're using one component from the treasure bag. However, I have some of these on my website, so if you want something and you want to make exactly the same necklace, you can do that. However, we're just making a linked beaded chain here. So I'm going to show you how to make this beaded chain, and we're going to connect it to the component from the treasure bag, and it just turns out really cute. I'm going to get you in a little bit closer on the front here, and that's just really a very pretty necklace, and delicate and elegant and delicate and elegant. I cannot talk. And then we're going to make a pair of earrings to go along with it too. It's very, very simple. These are techniques you can use with any beads that you would like, any component you'd like. You don't even need to put a component on it. Just you don't need to put a link like this on it. You could just do the beaded chain all the way around. So this is a techniques video, and you can just follow along even if you do not have the treasure bag. And if you want one of these components and make the same thing, I have everything that you need on my website, so you can do that too. It's up to you. Anyway, let's go ahead and look and see what it takes to make this particular project and get started. Okay, for this project today, I am going to be using one of the components from the newest Treasure Bag Pastel Passion. However, I do have these components on the website if you would like to get one. That is perfectly fine. There's many of them available to you, so you can do that. Also, with this necklace, if you want to get a couple more, making the front of this necklace with 3 components would be absolutely gorgeous, and then making your link chain towards the back and just putting these together with jump rings would be absolutely gorgeous. However, since we only have one in our treasure bags, I'm going to do this pattern with just one. So we're going to be using this component, and then I'm adding to the treasure bag, and you can use any of the 4mm round beads in your treasure bag that you would like. Put a little color into this, but I've decided that I like this golden color with this pendant, so I am using the 4mm round non-magnetic synthetic hematite beads in old gold color. I do have some of them on the website if you would like some. However, you can use any beads you want for this particular method. It's a technique that will work with almost anything you want it to work with. So you can use any beads you have on hand. I'm also going to use some 4mm bicones. This is a Swarovski AB, or it's kind of half plated, and I'm going to be using that. And I will be putting some really nice crystal up on the website real soon here too, so you might want to check that out after this video comes out. Hopefully I'll have it up and ready. I'll have prestige crystal, and I do have some Swarovski in factory packs that I'm dividing up and putting on the website too. So anyway, that doesn't matter. Use any bead you want to use. Use a small rondelle, use a bicone, use whatever you have on hand. That will work just fine. Then we're going to be using one of the lobster claw clasps that are in the bag, and you can use any clasping you want, of course. I'm going to use a 10mm jump ring for my clasping, and I'm going to use 4mm jump rings to connect, and I have one bigger one in there, but I'm going to use 4mm jump rings to connect the sides to my component and to my clasping. And then I'm going to be using 20 gauge or 26 gauge wire, and this is a wire I got at Hobby Lobby, I believe. It's Beadsmith, and I'm going to be using this 26 gauge wire. I like the color of the gold. It blends pretty well. It's kind of hard to get your golds to match perfectly, so I'm going to be using this wire, and I have cut 10 pieces 3 inches long. You're going to need 20 pieces, but I'm just going to do one side of the necklace at a time. So I have cut 10, and then when I'm ready, I'll cut 10 more. Of course, you can cut 20 and be completely ready. That's fine too. So let's go ahead and gather our things together, and we'll get started on this project. Okay, to start this project, you will grab one of your pieces of 26 gauge wire that is 3 inches long, and we're going to place our plier towards the tip of the plier because we want to make very dainty little connections here. So we're going to use the tip of the plier. We're going to place it about an inch, maybe an inch and a quarter down, just somewhere in that area. And then we are going to hold our pliers so that they are parallel with the bead mat, so it's flat like the bead mat this way. Push this little wire straight back, just like that, over the back part of the plier. Then you're going to turn your wrist where your plier is now up and down, or I like to call vertical. And then we're going to move this short length of wire over the top of the plier. When we get about 3/4 of the way around, we're going to draw it under the plier and turn our wrist so that the plier is now flat or horizontal or parallel to the bead mat. Now, I can take my plier out. If I see that my little loop is not quite centered, I can put it back in and I can move it. So let me put this back in here. And I can kind of move my loop the direction it needs to go to center it, just like that. Now I'm going to grab a pair of flat nose pliers and I am going to position it to where I can hold on to this loop and I can take this little short piece and just push it forward and have it the same angle as my plier. Then I'm going to grab another pair of pliers and I'm just going to wrap this short length around twice. And I'm doing this with my left hand, so bear with me. Okay, so I've got a nice little wrap around that, and I'm going to get you in really close because this is really small wire. So this is what I have. I'm going to turn it over so that this little piece of wire is sticking out and I can get to it better. I'm going to hold the loop still. I'm going to grab my flush cutters and I'm going to get as close as I can and cut that off. Just like that. Now I can just make sure with my little crimping tool or with a little pair of pliers, you can kind of push that little excess piece down so that it's not pokey. Otherwise your necklace is going to be kind of pokey. So that's what I have now. I have this little tiny loop on my wire. Now I'm going to, for the front of the necklace, I'm going to make 4 units where I have a crystal first, so I'm going to pick up my bicone, and then I'm going to pick up a 4mm round, then I'm going to pick up a bicone. This first unit I'm going to close completely on both sides, and then I will show you how to connect to it, leaving one side open with our next units. So I'm going to grab my round nose pliers. I have my beads on here. I'm going to go towards the tip of my pliers again, just a little bit back, so I get a nice small loop. I'm going to place it right above that crystal, making sure it's tight against the crystal, and I'm going to push the wire, the long length of wire, over the back of the plier while I'm holding it flat. Then I'm going to move my plier to where it is now up and down, and then I'm going to bring the long length of wire over the plier and under it as I turn my wrist. Just like that. Now I have a tiny little loop. I'm going to grab my flat nose pliers. I'm going to hold on to my flat nose pliers. I'm going to move this wire so that it is the same angle as my flat nose pliers. Now you can do this with your fingers or you can do it with another pair of pliers. I'm just going to grab another pair and I'm going to try to gently turn 2 loops. Now you can see I have quite a bit of excess wire, so if you want to cut your section shorter you can. I just like to make sure I have enough. So I've turned that twice. Now I'm going to continue holding on to my loop. I'm going to grab my flush cutters. I'm going to get as close as I can with my flush cutters and cut that. Now I am going to tuck in the little excess piece. I like to use these little crimp tool, this little crimp tool, because it works really well to tuck these in usually, and it's a little bit of a challenge, guys. So You have to just be patient and get it down there like that. Now, you can see my links are both, one is this way and one is up and down. So I'm just going to grab 2 pairs of pliers and I'm just going to turn them so that they are the same direction. Just like that. Now we're going to make our next unit linked to this one. So we still have to start the same way and end one side so that we can slide our beads on. So we're going about 1 inch down here, maybe a little bit more, and then we're going to push the short length of wire over the top of the plier. Let me back off a little here. Then we're going to turn our wrists so that our plier is now up and down. We're going to bring the short wire 3/4 of the way around. Then we're going to turn our wrist so that our plier is now flat, and we are going to draw that short piece of wire underneath the plier. Now here you can kind of tip your hand forward or away from you to make sure that your little loop is centered, and then you can grab a flat nose plier, and I like to have the short one away from me, so I hold it like this so that it's away from me. It's just a preference. And then I will just go ahead and wrap it. Now it'd be better if I switched hands, but you know, I'm going to do this left-handed. So I'm just going to hold this and bring this wire around nice and tightly, nice and neatly twice. Just like that. I'm going to continue holding on to my loop and I'm going to cut that as short as I can. And then I'm going to tuck it in. And I didn't get it tucked in, so let me use my proper hand here and get this tucked in. And like I said, that's the worst part of making these little components, especially with tiny wire, is trying to tuck in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold it with my plier in my left hand, and then I'm going to use my crimping tool and I am going to squish that down. That's a little better. There we go. I finally got it. All right. So now I have my little loop like this. Now I'm going to pick up my beads and I'm going to make 4 like this. So I'm just going to repeat that. Pick up a crystal, pick up a 4mm round, pick up a crystal. And now I am going to place my pliers again towards the tip of them, right above that crystal. And this time I'm going to try to keep it to where I'm bending my wire in the same way that this one is. So if my loop is facing this way, I want to hold it this way. And then I am just going to bring my wire over the top of the plier. And again, reposition my wrist so that it's up and down now. Bring the long length of wire over the top, 3/4 of the way around, and then turn my wrist. And then I'm just going to release. Now I'm going to grab this little tiny loop that I've made and I'm going to open it just a little bit like this, and then I'm going to grab my other component and I'm going to slide it on to the loop. Then I'm going to grab, let's see, do I want these pliers? I'm going to grab my flat nose pliers and I'm going to hold on to that loop. And then with my fingers, now since I have a pretty good length of wire left, I can just bring this around twice, just like that. Maybe a little more than twice. There we go. Just like that. I'm going to continue holding on to it. And I'm going to cut as close as I can. Cut that off. And then I'm going to try to tuck it in while I'm still holding it here. There we go. And now I have 2 links, and I hope I was in camera. We'll do one more just in case I was not, and then we'll just continue making links, and I'll show you how I change them, because I'm making 4 like this, and then I'm going to make 2 with 2 of my 4mm rounds and 1 crystal, and then I'm going to make 4 with just 3 of my 4mm rounds. And that way, as I work towards the back, I will have just the 4mm rounds, and I'll have my pretty crystal in the front. Because I'm using Swarovski, I want to kind of not go too crazy with it because, you know, I want to save some. However, if you want to make the whole thing just like this, make the whole thing just like this. Make it all crystal. It doesn't have to have a 4mm round in it. Do it any way you want to do it. As long as you make your little links and link them together, you're going to have the same thing I do, basically. So now let's make one more link and link it to the others, since I was a little bit too close at the camera and I think I got out of frame. So I'm going to grab one more piece of wire, straighten it a little bit because it's all weird, and I'm going to go about an inch, maybe a little bit more than an inch down. I'm going to push this wire over the top of my plier. I'm going to then turn my wrist so that it's up and down. I'm going to bring the short wire over the top and then draw the short wire over or under the plier and turn the plier so that it is now flat. And then I'm just going to kind of move my plier that way just to make sure. I'm just tipping it so that I center my loop. And I could have done that a little better, actually. There we go. And now I have my little loop here. I'm going to grab my flat nose pliers and I'm going to hold on to that. I'm going to arrange it so that the wire is away from me like this. I don't know where I need to be here, but there we go. And then I'm going to switch hands, actually. And now my little wire is underneath, so I can just turn towards me and hopefully not distort the whole thing. So let me straighten that out. When you're working with this really fine wire, it's easy to kind of mess up. I'm leaving this in here so you can see how I'm trying to deal with it. I'm going to wrap around the long length, and if I get too low, I can push it up and wrap around twice. Because every link you make, some of them are going to come out beautiful and perfect and easy, and then some of them are just going to give you grief. So there we go. I've cut off the excess. I'm going to tuck in the little tiny piece that's sticking out, and there's my little loop. Now I am going to pick up my crystal 4mm round and crystal. Whoops, that's not a crystal. Geez, Gina. Like this. I'm going to grab my pliers. I'm going to put it right on top. Again, trying to stay in the same place on my plier. Push the long length of wire over the back of the plier. Turn your hand and then bring the wire over the top of the plier. And then turn your hand again and bring the wire underneath. You got a loop. Now I'm going to open that loop just a little bit. I'm going to grab my previous components and I'm going to drop them on. Now I am going to grab a hold of that little loop again. I'm going to switch my hands and I am going to grab my other pair of pliers and just start to turn. If your component gets a little weird, whatever, this is very easy to straighten out because it's such soft, tiny wire. I'm going to continue holding on to it, and I'm going to cut as close as I can. And then I'm going to continue holding on to it. However, I'm going to switch pliers because I want that one to squish the thing in. So I'm going to hold on to it this way, and then I am going to squish that little wire in. Which is very hard to see. You guys can probably see it better under the magnification of my camera than I can. Now, I have 3 of them together, and I'm hoping I was in camera at that time. So I will check and make sure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue making these units. I'm going to make one more like this, and then I'm going to move into doing two like this. So I'll have my 4mm on the outside, my crystal on the inside, and my 4mm on the outside. Then I will make my 3 little beads, and these beads can be stuck together if you get some. So I just take my my flesh cutters and just very gently go like that, and it pops them right apart. So I'll make 4 units like that. So I'm going to continue making units. I'll come back and show you exactly the strand I want. And I'm going to work this way because I know that I want this portion with the 2 crystals to be the part that connects to my pendant in the front of my necklace. So don't pick it up and connect the opposite way when you start doing a different combination. Keep working one direction, and we'll be back. Okay, so as you can see, I have finished my 10 units of components linked together. So I've made my little beaded chain here. And the way I did it, like I said before, as you can see the units here, I did 4 with 2 bicones, 2 with 1 bicones, and 2 4mm rounds, and then 4 with 4mm rounds. And of course you can do it any way you want. You can make it all one thing. It would be really pretty with just these or just the crystals, doesn't matter. So I want this to be the back portion of my necklace. This is going to make, once I have the jump rings and the centerpiece on from the center over, it's measuring about 8.5 inches. Once I get my clasping on, this should be an 18-inch necklace, just so you know. If you need it longer, make a couple more units. If you need it shorter, make a couple less units. So now that we have all of these, I am just going to connect it to the centerpiece on this side, and then I'll make the other side and connect it to the centerpiece. So I've got this 4mm jump ring. You could use even a smaller jump ring. I just don't really have a smaller one. So I'm using this one. It's 4mm on the outside diameter. I'm going to drop it on the crystal side of my chain that I created, and then I'm going to put it through the link on the pendant here, and I'm just going to close it. I don't know why I keep grabbing my round nose pliers. That's not going to work very well. I'm going to close this jump ring. Make sure it's closed nicely. And now I have one side done. I'm going to go ahead and put my clasping on this side. So I have a little 4mm jump ring already on the clasp. I'm just going to open it and put it on the end here and close it. And now I'm just going to do the exact same thing for the other side of the necklace. So I will make exactly the same amount of units and exactly the same order, and then we'll come back and I'm going to go ahead and connect it. We'll come back and look at the finished piece. So you'll do exactly what we've done on this side for this side, and we'll be back. Okay, so you can see I've made both sides exactly the same, and then I just connected a 10mm jump ring to, or an 8mm, something like that. I think it's probably an 8. It doesn't matter, whatever size you want to put on there. I just connected it to the very last loop on the very last component here. Just opened the jump ring and slid it on so that I would have the other half of my clasping. So that is very simple to end your project with. And I have decided I want to make a little dangle to put on the back here. So I think I'm just going to grab one of my crystals. I have this little head pin, and this one's a pretty stiff one. Even though it's a ball head pin, it's pretty stiff. So I'm going to be able to make just a basic loop, open it up and put it on the jump ring, or you can always open the jump ring and slide it on, either way. So what I'm going to do is I've just slid a little crystal on here, and I'm just going to bend this over. And then I am going to grab my flesh cutters, and I'm going to cut this down to about 1/4 inch long. And then I'm going to grab my round nose pliers, and I'm just going to grab at the very end of this wire, and I'm going to start to roll a loop. I'm going to roll as far as I can. then I'm going to take my hand out, turn my pliers over, put it back in, and continue to roll. And now I have made a little loop. I hope I was in camera. It's simple enough to make, just a basic loop just like that. And then I am going to grab my pliers. I'm going to just crank it open on the side that opens and pop it on here. Now I want you to make, if you want to make earrings, just go ahead and make 2 more components just like the one I just showed you. And then make 2 more for your earrings like the very first unit I showed you how to make, closing both sides. So the very first unit we made, you're going to do the same process, and I have decided to put 2 4mm rounds on it and 1 crystal. Wow, that's some big thunder. Made me about jump out of my chair. Guess it's gonna storm here. Anyway, so we want to make a unit just like the very first ones we made, close both ends, and you can select any beads you want to put on it, of course. This is how mine's going to look. I'm going to make 2 of these, and then I am going to make 2 components like this one. So just like that. And then you're going to need an ear wire, and we'll come back and just put those together. Okay, so as you can see, I have made 1 earring already. So we have our component that's closed on both sides, and then we have our little loop on the top of a crystal here. And we have an ear wire. Very simple. Just open the ear wire on the portion that opens, and then just drop on your component, the longer component, and then find the opening on the component you just made for your little crystal and open it by cranking it open, and then just slide him onto the end of the longer component and close it. Whoa, slip right out of my hand. Okay, so now, and my ear wires look weird and huge because I made them myself because I wanted the wire to match, so they're a little odd. But I don't have a lot of gold ear wires, and the ones I have are just totally the wrong color. So I just created something. But, so they look kind of weird. Not bad, but, you know, could be better, I guess. But here, I'm going to set this out so you can see the pretty little set. And again, I think it would just be amazing to have 2 of these on here, even connected just to the units themselves like I have laid out. Isn't that cool? Having the little, I guess you can't really see it, can you? But that would be kind of cool having them connected even with these units. But I think that would be a really pretty front of the necklace. And if you want some more, like I said, you can get some on my website. I'm not trying to push it. I just think that that would be a really pretty design, and I want you to know that it's available if you want to make one. So, and there are just a very few Color Mix 2 treasure bags left too. Not many, but they did last a little longer this time. I did make a whole lot more, so I'm really happy that they have lasted a little bit longer. But if you want one, you can come get one. Now I'm going to show you what I was just doing because you couldn't see it, but I was just laying it out so you could see how pretty it is. And I think that that makes a really pretty, very elegant, dainty necklace and earring set that would either dress up or down. You could do this with jeans, or you could do it with your little black dress. It's really a cute set. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and if you did, please consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell so we can continue making pieces together. And if you're feeling extremely kind, go ahead and hit that thumbs up for me. That really does help my channel, and I appreciate it more than you'll ever know. Thank you, and bye-bye.